Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz. This is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Thursday, July 19th, 2024. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Put those baseball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my daily rundown best bet in the MLB, you can find those at the premium picks tab at pickdawgz.com. Alrighty, here we go. Here are the games for Thursday in Major League Baseball. First up, the Arizona Diamondbacks taking on the Chicago Cubs. Now, this game is a good example of why I think it's best to tread lightly in the first game, or the first card back from the All-Star break, as I think it's one of the toughest cards to handicap throughout the entire season, and really the entire year in sports betting, because you got the All-Star break with each team getting a few days off. They're really able to go with anybody on the mound to start their second half of the season, and we see teams taking advantage of that, going with their aces, who maybe are not necessarily in line to be next in the rotation, but because they had a few days off, they're able to pitch in this spot. Some teams are just going with the next man up, and some teams haven't announced a starter. Actually, quite a few teams haven't. Neither of these teams in this matchup. The same thing for the Orioles-Rangers game, and a few other teams as well. So in this D-backs-Cubs game, that Orioles-Rangers game, right now we're gonna have to take a pass. We'll look to update in the comment section. I'll pin a comment below with the updated information when we get it. But right now, take a Ruffalo in this Diamondbacks-Cubs game. Next up, we see the Philadelphia Phillies taking on the Pittsburgh Pirates. Aaron Nola for Philadelphia, no official starter for the Buccos. Nola's pitched really well this year, but the Pirates have also really improved against right-handed pitching in the month of July thus far. They're top 15 in team OPS and isolated power. They're top 10 in isolated power against righties, and that strikeout rate is sub 20%. So they've been a lot more efficient at the plate and so far in the month of July. And I think with Nola, while he's pitched well, like we said, he's given up at least one home run in 4 of his last 5 starts. To me, the value lies with the Pittsburgh Pirates at home, getting a pretty solid plus money price. I'm going to go Pittsburgh in this one on the money line. Next up, we see the Cincinnati Reds taking on the Washington Nationals. Frankie Montas and Patrick Corbin are your starters. There's no doubting that Corbin struggled this year mightily. He's been one of the least profitable pitchers in baseball. ERA above 5.5. He's not in great form right now, but Frankie Montas on the other side has not been much better. In fact, the Reds have only won 2 of his starts since May 7th, and he was injured a few times, but he's still, the Reds have lost a majority of his games recently. He's not been a profitable guy. His last game, 5 earned runs given up, 8 base hits, 2 home runs as well. Makes it 4 home runs so far in 12 innings in July. For me, I think these starting pitchers kind of cancel each other out. The lineups are kind of in the same boat right now, and the bullpens as well. In the last month, their expected numbers are pretty solid. Now, the Nationals just lost Hunter Harvey to a trade with Kansas City. That does hurt the bullpen, but for me, I think the value lies with the home team in this spot. I'm going to go with the Washington Nationals on the money line at Washington Nationals Park. I think they grab the W in this first game of the series. Next up, we see the New York Yankees taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. Always a fun series, this one at Yankee Stadium. Zach Eflin and Garrett Cole are your starters. Now, Eflin's in solid form. However, he's just not pitched well on the road this season. Even, his last game was against these Yankees. He pitched really well, but that was at Tropicana Field. His last road start was against the Royals, and in that game, 5 innings, 7 base hits, 5 earned runs. He just hasn't been good on the road. He's got an ERA above 5 away from Tropicana Field this season. Garrett Cole, while it's been a not great start to the season for him, we can definitely see the signs of improvement. He's striking out more guys. His last start was probably his best of the season thus far. 6 innings, 1 run, 7 strikeouts after a rocky start to that game against Baltimore. He settled in nicely and was able to, give his best start of the season. I got to go with the Yankees in this game on the run line at Yankee Stadium. Next up, we see the Detroit Tigers taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. We're going to see Chris Bassett and Jack Flaherty as your starters. Now, I think both these starting pitchers very solid options, but I trust the Tigers lineup and bullpen a lot more right now. I don't love this Tigers offense overall this season, but if you look recently, in the month of July, they're number 5 in ISO and OPS against right-handed pitching. The bullpen, Toronto's bullpen in a really rough series against Arizona. We saw them blow the lead in the first game of that series. And now, and so far in the month of July, the second worst xFIP in baseball, and ERA above 5.6. I got to go with the Detroit Tigers on the money line in this one. Next up, we see the New York Mets taking on the Miami Marlins. Sean Manaea and Edward Cabrera are your starters. I do think Cabrera is going to get back to form. We saw in 2022 and 23, he was well above a strikeout per inning and a solid starting pitcher in this Marlins rotation. He has struggled in 2024, no doubt about it, and I don't really love him in this spot, but I do think he will improve as the season goes along. This is an important second half of the season for him. Manaea has been really good on the road this year. It's tough to go against the Mets right now in this spot. They've played well against the Marlins in recent years, and when you look at Manaea on the road, 2.44 ERA, 3-0 record. The Mets are 4-0 his last 4 starts. To me, I got to go with the Mets in this one, the run line on the road. Next up, we see the San Diego Padres taking on the Cleveland Guardians. Matt Waldron and Tanner Bybee are your starters. Bybee struggled so far at Progressive Field this season with a 4.7 ERA, and we've talked about how Progressive Field has been a lot more hitter-friendly this year than it was in previous seasons. And, I think that while the Padres lineup has not been great, neither is the Guardians really against right-handed pitching in the last month. I think San Diego finds enough early on offensively. Waldron's been excellent on the road this season. The Padres bullpen's making improvements. I've mentioned that I think the Guardians have the best bullpen in baseball. However, in the month of July thus far, their bullpen's ranked 17th in xFIP. The Padres in the top 10 in terms of the best expected numbers in the league. So I'm going to go with the Padres getting an excellent price. To me, the wrong team is favored in this one. Next up, the St. Louis Cardinals taking on the Atlanta Braves. We're going to see Sonny Gray and Spencer Schwellenbach as the projected starters. Schwellenbach an ERA of 4.43. However, his first 2 starts at the major league level, he struggled, giving up 9 earned runs combined in 9 2/3 innings. So that those 2 starts really inflated that ERA. When you look recently, he's in solid form. So far in July, 13 innings against the Phillies and Padres combined, 2 earned runs. It's a 1.38 ERA. And, both of those were Braves victories, 5-1 and 6-1, so wins and run line covers as well. You're facing Sonny Gray, who's not really in great form. He's given up a lot of base hits recently, 7 against the Reds in only 4 1/3 innings on June 29th, 8 base hits and 5 earned against the Nationals in only 5 innings of work. Now, his last game, he was able to go 7 innings, and he had 6 strikeouts. However, 9 base hits given up again, so a lot of base runners. This is a solid Braves lineup. A solid Braves bullpen. And I've mentioned I like this Cardinals bullpen, but recently hasn't been the sharpest. So for me, I got to give the advantage to the Atlanta Braves in this game at Truist Park on the money line and run line. Next up, we see the Chicago White Sox taking on the Kansas City Royals. Chris Flexen and Michael Wacha are your starters. Series like these are very important for KC, and we already started to see them become buyers now with trading for Hunter Harvey, and we'll see if they continue to do so as we near the trade deadline. But if you don't win series like this, where you're facing one of the weakest teams in baseball, you're playing them at Kauffman Stadium where you're 13 games above 500. It's really tough to justify buying too much, especially for a team and organization that's not necessarily the deepest in their prospect pool. A lot of their top guys, like Bobby Witt Jr., are already at the major league level, so there's not a ton to look to the future for. And you don't want to just buy too much if you're not really ready to be a contender. And I think the Royals in this game are going to take advantage of their matchup. I think they take a win here and cover the run line as well. Michael Wacha has been excellent recently. He's given up 3 earned runs or fewer in his last 5 starts. The Royals have taken advantage of those good outings, winning his last 3 starts. And Chris Flexen's been solid in this White Sox rotation, but still has an ERA above 4.8. And while he's been better recently with back-to-back quality starts, it still hasn't been enough for even run line coverage. We've seen, last game 6-2 loss, 8-6. The White Sox have lost a lot of his games recently, and I got to go with KC in this one on the run line. Next up, we see the San Francisco Giants taking on the Colorado Rockies. No official starter for San Francisco. It looks like Cal Quantrill is listed for Colorado. He could be the starter. He may not be. This is a Thursday card that it's a tough one because a lot of these starting pitchers are subject to change in the odds as well. And it's why we've already seen a lot of these lines on the move from where they opened up, earlier in the week. So in this matchup, Colorado's tough to beat at Coors Field. We've mentioned that they've been a lot more competitive, especially recently. I thought they played really well against Kansas City, against the Brewers even, where it was a 2-2 series, but they could have certainly won that if it wasn't for some, not so great bullpen work at the end of those games. But while the Rockies were not really competitive against the Reds or the Mets on the road, they get to return here at Coors Field. They get their guy in Cal Quantrill, who's been somebody that's been able to keep them in a lot of his starts, especially at Coors Field. Not so much on the road, but he's actually been better at Coors Field with an ERA of 4 flat. I'm going to take a shot here with the Rockies at a great plus money price. I like San Francisco as a team, and I think they're going to have a strong second half of the season. But for me, I think the value lies with Colorado at Coors. Next up, we see the Los Angeles Angels taking on the Oakland Athletics. J.P. Sears listed for Oakland, no official starter for the Halos. I'm going to lean towards the Angels in this one. Not my favorite game on the board. Obviously, two teams that have not played too well recently. And when you look at the Angels, though, the reason why I do lean towards LA is they have been pretty solid against left-handed pitching in the last 30 days. I think they can get to Sears, even though they weren't able to do so in that last start on July 4th, where he went 5 innings of shutout ball, but only 5 innings of work. I do think that if Sears isn't able to go deep into the ball game, the Angels will at least be able to get to that Oakland A's bullpen, which had a really good start to the season, but has not done too well recently. And in the last month, an ERA above 4 and the 5th worst expected numbers in terms of xFIP in baseball. So give me the Angels in this one in a lean on the money line. Next up, we see the Boston Red Sox taking on the Los Angeles Dodgers. Nick Pivetta and Gavin Stone are the projected starters. I saw somewhere that a sportsbook has the Red Sox to make the playoffs, yes and no at a pick'em. So basically 50-50 for the Red Sox playoff hopes this year. And that's pretty, solid for a team that really wasn't expected much. I believe they were projected to finish right around 5th or 4th in the AL East for a lot of people's predictions, going into the season. So when you look at this, Nick Pivetta's pitched really well on the road this year, an ERA sub 3. Gavin Stone's been solid, but not so much recently. I mean, last 2 games, 7 2/3 combined against the Diamondbacks and Phillies, 16 base hits, 8 earned runs, 2 home runs to go with it. This is a pretty tough Red Sox lineup against a right-handed pitcher. The Dodgers bullpen's not been great recently. We just mentioned the Blue Jays and the A's and the White Sox bullpen's not pitching too well recently. The Dodgers have the worst xFIP in all of the bullpens in baseball in the month of July thus far at 4.55. So for me, getting plus money with a team that's playing solid baseball, they're 12 games above 500 on the road. I know the Dodgers still shorthanded, in terms of the injuries. I got to go with the Red Sox in this game at an excellent price. Next up, we see the Houston Astros and the Seattle Mariners, the final game for the Thursday card in Major League Baseball. Hunter Brown and Luis Castillo are your starters, and both starting pitchers pitched well in their last starts of the first half of the season. Brown, quality start against the Rangers, 6 innings, 2 runs in an Astros victory, and Castillo against the Angels and Blue Jays, back-to-back quality starts in 2 Mariners wins. But for me, in this game and really in this series, I just trust the Astros lineup a lot more. And the Mariners the strikeout problems have been a big issue, and especially with runners on base or runners in scoring position. When you have a strikeout rate near 30%, sometimes north of 30%, when you're looking at a 30-day span against righties or lefties, it's tough to have a lot of faith in that lineup. I think the Astros, if it's a close game late, even their bullpen, I think you could make the argument that it's superior. When you look at the last, so far in July, I mean, it's the 4th best xFIP in all of baseball in terms of the bullpen. So I'm going to roll with the Houston Astros in this game, getting a great price. A lot of these games, while it's a tough card overall, we're seeing some good value spots with some of these underdogs, and this is one of them with the Houston Astros, a small dog on the road. And that's it. Those are the games for Thursday in baseball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, and don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comment section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.